welcome to the Yesshift documentary on The Secret Path, the Roger Dean and Freyja Dean art exhibit, filmed on location at Haight Street Art Center in San Francisco, California, October 16, 2022, by me, Stephen Shinder, and my dad, Dan Shinder. A later portion of this documentary was also filmed at the Magnolia in El Cajon, California on October 24th, 2022, by me just before a Yes show. All video recordings were done with the use of iPhones. There was a bit of onboard iPhone mic use at the Haight Street Art Center, with some voiceovers added later. Therefore, some of the audio is not pristine, and while some of the visuals go slightly fuzzy here and there, we guarantee you will see Roger and Freyja's work respectively in astonishing detail like never before unless you've looked at it through a jeweler's loupe lens. We opted not to use any music from any of the respective albums related to any of the artwork shown, as that might have complicated things as far as licensing is concerned. Instead, we used music we own from our licensed libraries, and all sources are cited in the closing credits. Instead of sitting back and relaxing, we invite you to lean in and immerse yourself in Roger and Freyja's exhibit, brought to you the way we experienced it on site. The larger the screen, the better.
So we're finally here.
Yeah, it's the Secret Path exhibit, so...
Yeah, last chance, Steve. It's your last chance to say, fuck it, let's not go in.
Yeah, we just came all this way and just don't go in. That would be such a fail on our part.
Alright, let's go.
Alright. This painting is 33 years old. I hope I look this good when I'm 33. And this is Blue Desert from the Anderson Bruford Wakeman album. You see more of the detail just standing right in front of you. This is like right next to the entrance. It's like, what a way to just delve into this world.
The colors are breathtaking in person.
Yeah.
Just under regular incandescent light, it's incredible. Alright, so we're here at the Secret Path, and this piece of art that I'm going to lower the camera down to show you is just, if you've ever seen this in print on the album, this will blow your mind, and it still won't show you in the video how vivid it is. Look at this amazing color. Sorry that I'm in the reflection. And it's how big, Steve? What does it say on there?
It says 40 by 30 inches.
How much?
40 by 30.
40 by 30 inches. This is the original pathways, and it just looks illuminated from the inside. I'm just so taken by this.
Yeah, and you're also kind of reminded like how much his stuff evolved from this to like Anderson Bruford Wakeman now. It's like they're both like very outstanding in their eras, and they're still outstanding. But you see how, you know, he's always been trying to try new things. It's, you know.
Yeah. And behind us, if you've ever seen that in one of his books, again, the quality of the colors and everything is just amazing. This is from 1973 and 2013, acrylic on silk screen print. So this is the 2013 screen print. Did for Virgin Records.
It's funny how the different bugs or creatures that Roger uses can really evoke the era in which the band was in. Like, the Dragonflies remind me of House of Yes, and the Beatles, not the band, but the insects of the Beatles, very, very much throw me back to 2003, you know, the Full Circle tour and the Speak documentary, that everything that documents that era, the 35th anniversary. It's crazy that that's like a long time ago now, like how quickly time passed.
Move to your left. Let's show them more Beatles.
Yeah, so this is John, Paul, Ringo, George. Yeah, I don't know. I just picked randomly. Maybe each of them, like, you viewers can decide which Beatle is which Beatle, if that makes sense.
Steve is looking at a piece by Freyja Dean, Roger's daughter, who is the co-exhibitor here. And it's flickering because of the electrical cycle in the light. I believe that's done with fiber optics, maybe not. Nowadays, you know, it's LED, I suppose. But the name of this piece,
Florian.
from 2022, acrylic on acrylic 3D print. It's 21 by 40 by 9 deep. So what were you saying about it?
I was saying, well, not just with this, but from what I've seen of Freyja's work on her page, is that I like how you can see, like, the lineage. Like, you could tell she's very much of the Roger Dean family, but she also, like, puts her own spin. Like, she has her own style. It's like you can see a mix of some of those familiar traces with Roger's work, but a lot of new and fresh ideas with her own work. Yeah. It's like same family, but like different things to showcase, I guess.
So here we are with the album cover from The Quest.
Yeah, I was just about to say, this is definitely one of my favorite Roger Dean works.
Is it?
Yeah, it's like back when the cover art was unveiled, I was just so taken with it and just the scope of it and the dimensionality of it.
And here we are right in front of us. Is that Chris? Some people have hypothesized that those rocks look like the back of Chris wearing his long cloak, jacket, or coat. It's really, who knows? We'd have to ask Roger. This is the leap.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I think this is either from Fly From Here or Fly From Here Return Trip. If it's from Return Trip, then that's makes it kind of surprising that this was made in 2009. So it makes me wonder if maybe for Fly From Here, Roger may have
do some on-hand work that helps him fit.
Because I think that happened.
And I'm fine with that, by the way.
Yeah, I think that happened with Fierce Bliss, an album by I think someone from Heart, if I'm not mistaken. Like, so maybe he just had it in his archives and it fit this Fly From Here artwork from 2011.
They totally fit.
Yeah, you can see the bird and the panther.
You know, it's like he had that to develop into the series that became. Yeah. And then this is totally different. This looks very Asian from a lot of Japanese paintings I've seen, but there's a very...
Yeah, I mean, it's the Asia Phoenix idea. So their 2008 album.
Oh my god, there's a whole other giant room.
Yeah.
I gotta get Steven's face, so hold on. So follow me, and I'm gonna just follow me. Come here.
Okay.
I'm gonna give everyone a quick pan around, starting from here.
Yeah.
Just a quick teaser, then we'll dig into everything. Oh my god. Oh.
Yeah, we see a good mix of Roger and Freyja's work.
Look, the dragon chasing the ball, the sphere.
Yeah,
and look at that.
Asia's Triple X album.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's I think that's the new Downs Braid Association album.
Yeah, and Wait till you folks see this if you're familiar with Roger's history. The elephant coming back.
Osibisa. Oh, it's from 2020. Interesting.
Now, turn around to your left. We were just talking about this.
Oh, yeah.
Right there in front. Stand next to it so they can see how big it is.
Yeah. So, should I tell you the conversation we were having?
Yeah,
Yeah, well, we were talking about Return to the Center of the Earth, and I mentioned that, like, the album cover didn't really speak to me as much as some other things, because it's like...
What do you think now?
Because it feels like two different paintings, like, if you're just looking at the album cover, but looking at it in person, it's like, it wins me over. Like, it does feel like the same world, and I see details I didn't notice before, maybe because, like, some of this was on the front, and I haven't seen the back.
It's...
Like, see the pterodactyls and the people there.
Yeah, there they are, big swords. But here's what catches me the most. If you think back, and folks for you too, if you think back to the story, and they talk about the phosphorescence, giving off, look, that's the phosphorescence light that you really don't see on the album cover, like you do right here on the original painting, the phosphorescent light given off by, the minerals and everything that are down there.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to go back into the hall where we were, then we're going to come back into this room and take more time with it. So we will be back.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is Space Needle, and it's from 1996, so very much in the Keys to Ascension era, and it's always reminded me of Keys to Ascension, but I never really noticed how alien these rocks, or I think the rocks like over here, looked, because...
Until you saw it now?
Right, yeah, because...
Like, what's going on there?
They stick out more when you see the painting as opposed to just looking at...
The print, yeah.
Online type of thing.
Huge difference.
Yeah.
And stand next to it so they can see the size.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good size paint. Steve's about 6'1".
Yeah, 6 feet.
And then next to you, let's take them over there.
This one?
Yeah, this is just the colors of the dragon.
Yeah, it's titled Silver Birch, and it's the cover art for Asia's, what was the album called? I'm blanking on it. It's not Valkyrie, that's like the opening track. It's, Gravitas, yeah.
Oh, yeah, Gravitas.
Yeah, this is my favorite Asia album cover.
This is amazing. Like, look at the, the floating islands, and here's one with just a small one with a tree. Yeah. You got the moss, the detail here.
When you're looking at this one online, like, it looks like it could be digital art, but when you're standing in front of it, it's like it clearly was painted.
Brushed. Yeah.
And the trees, like, I never thought about this, but the trees, like, the way they're colored kind of reminds me of the relayer.
Yeah, the colors. Yeah. And look at the detail in the dragon scales, and it's incredible.
Yeah, Gravitas is the first album after Steve Howe left to focus on ES several years ago.
Yeah, sorry, there's a lot of ambient noise in the background, folks. You might not have heard that, but Gravitas is the first Asia album after Steve Howe left to concentrate on Yes.
Yeah, and I think it's their only album after that period. I don't think they've put out a studio album since then.
What's this?
Oh, this is something by Freyja.
Oh.
Yeah, Piper at the Gates of Dawn, so...
I think you're supposed to read it as the Piper at the Gates of Dawn.
Yeah, like the Pink Floyd album.
Yeah.
And it has like some sparkling, like, I don't know if you can see it on the video, but yeah. So I wonder if it's inspired by the Pink Floyd album, or if maybe Piper at the Gates of Dawn is some sort of saying that I'm unfamiliar with beyond just the Pink Floyd album.
Right.
Very much makes me think of like the Shire and stuff like that.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And then across the hall here.
Yeah, this is another Freyja work. And
the Ship of Theseus, 2021 acrylic on canvas, 31 by 46.
Yeah, this is another one that when I looked at it made me think of like Lord of the Rings when they're like sailing out to the Grey Havens, or maybe even like down the river to Magnolia type of thing. Just like the lighting and stuff and the rocks kind of pointing to that to me.
Yeah, and then behind us,
It's Roger Dean's Selling My Soul, 2006. This one I wasn't sure right away which of them did it, because I'm not sure if I've seen this one before.
it has a, I hope he's not insulted by this, but it has a, now I'm brain farting, see what you gave me? What's his name? Who did The Nightmare Before Christmas? Tim Burton. It has a Tim Burton feel to the architecture.
Huh.
And Gates of Delirium.
Yeah, interestingly, the description here says 2006, but the signature down here says 2012.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And it's watercolor on paper.
Okay, this is Steven again, and from here on out, as you viewers see the rest of the footage we have of the Secret Path exhibit, it'll be accompanied by narration added after the fact, because it got to a point where it would be difficult for us to have our voices heard as we kept walking through the exhibit, so we figured we'd just film the rest of it, enjoy being in the moment, and then that's what we did. We added voiceovers to what you're gonna see in a moment. But before we get to that, I just want to talk about the Secret Path book, which I was able to pick up from the exhibit. It does a nice job of contextualizing what this is all about. The essay within mentions the Secret Path podcast that the Deans had done, briefly telling the story of how Freyja once went to a shop in Tokyo and found a book of artists inspired by Czech artist Alphonse Mucha. And it included a work by her dad, by Roger, which was a surprise. And this here is a quote from the essay. The works in this exhibition chart the often gossamer and shadowy connections that link art and artists, media and audience, across time and place, spanning generations and geography in ways that defy easy explanation. The metaphor of a secret path offers a way of getting at those connections, suggesting the hidden network of relationships that weave together the Dean's art and the underlying visions informing it, anchoring their work in the deeper art history that Freyja's encounter in a Tokyo bookshop invoked. So as you see the rest of our footage of the exhibit, in the voiceover you'll occasionally hear mention of, oh, the book says this, the book says that, so this is the book I'm referring to. Basically, the first half is about Roger Dean's art that's included in the exhibit, and the second half is about Freyja's art. These pictures are accompanied by text, providing more context for each of these works of art. And I really like the cover. It includes the Floating Islands painting that you see on ABWH's An Evening of Yes Music Plus. That's the background of it, and in the foreground you see a picture that's the Baba Yaga print that Freyja did. So a nice melding of Roger and Freyja's work. You know, we're so familiar with Roger's work, and it's nice that we were able to explore Freyja's as well. This book even includes a nice quote by Freyja's mom, Amanda Dean, at the beginning of it. So Amanda says, "For all for us, there is a secret path in life whose contours and route we cannot see while we live it." And I'm really glad that I got this book. It's a nice memento, and it provides a nice way of looking at the art with hindsight. Alright, so enjoy the rest of the footage from the Secret Path exhibit.
Freyja Dean, the 3 feathers acrylic on canvas. So here's one feather. Here's another feather. And the third feather. Look at the silhouette of the trees. And as we pan out, look at those colors, just how vibrant they are.
Yeah, you see the mountains. It's like on 3 panels, and there's some dark clouds and some really bright orange clouds. You know, the dawn's shining on it, and yeah, you can see like the snow on the mountains and like all the detail.
The clouds are what kept me. I mean, I saw some of that on the way out to get you on the plane, and just the detail of the clouds. Living in Arizona, I'm always watching clouds.
Yeah, and in the Secret Path book, Freyja talks about how an old story about a king and his 3 prince sons, how like the king throws 3 feathers into the wind, and I guess each prince has to look for the feather and also decide what's the perfect carpet. I'm not familiar with the story, but yeah, she explains it in the book.
Interesting. The colors are beyond vibrant.
Yeah. Medusa's Family Reunion by Freyja Dean from 2021, acrylic on canvas.
44 by 64 inches. That's big. Look at the colors. This is the one that was, I think this was, yes, lit by black light. And look at the sparkles that she's got, which do give it a whole other dimension.
Yeah, and you can see the wings on that character, and the tree looks amazing. Like she likes using a lot of pink in some of her works, and we were wondering like whether there's a Pegasus right there.
Yeah.
You know, winged horse type of thing.
Yeah, but yeah, if you look towards the bottom here, is that a waterline with a reflection, or is it an alternate sort of universe of the same thing upside down? I think the more I think about it and look at it, I think it's a waterline and that's all reflection, or maybe I'm wrong and it is an island. That's maybe one of the first things I'd ask her in an interview is about this painting.
Because when we looked at it, I thought it was a floating island, but yeah it could be water.
But here we're looking at the differences in, you know, colors between the clouds in the bottom and the upper part. That's what made me suspicious that maybe it is a floating island. And if you look at the colors to the left of those mountains on the top and bottom, you can see that the colors are just different. And I know they might be a little different in a reflection, but they were very different. Same thing with other parts of, quote unquote, the reflection, if that is what it is. But what I like is that we're wondering and we're talking about it and we don't know. You know, It evokes that. Like, let's see if they can tell if it's this or if it's that. And we can't tell. We don't know.
Yeah, I'm like flipping through the book. Medusa's Family Reunion does have some heavy subject matters in it. And there's a full page about it. So, yeah, you know, it's steeped in Greek mythology. Say what you will about Heaven and Earth. I know everyone has their opinions on it, but I think everyone can agree that the painting for it is beautiful. You got the ice and the trees.
Yeah, and breathtaking depth of field when you look at what's in the way in the background on the water horizon. But yeah, the ice developing on the branches of the tree and up in the clumps of, we'll call it pine needles, I guess, or you know, the foliage of the tree. You can see the frost, and even up close. Sometimes when you look up close at paintings, they lose detail.
Right.
You know, where you have to stand back, tilt your head and squint. Oh, there it is. Whereas his work, and Freyja's for that matter, this is Roger's, of course, you don't get that. The more we zoom in and look at detail, the more detail there really is to see, and that's unusual.
Yeah, and Roger has talked about how, and I think we mentioned this on the show before, how he misheard whatever the title was and thought it was Heaven and Earth, and then went with that, so...
And I wonder, we've joked about what it might have been, right?
Yeah, so we gotta figure out if we can ask him.
Heavy on girth? Maybe it was heavy on girth.
Yeah, maybe. Alright, and this next one, we got like the floating rocks and islands motif again. It's Green Parrot Island.
Green Parrot Island.
Yeah, it's from 2013. And we were wondering, like, I think you were saying, like, where's the parrot? And I was saying, I think the rocks in the back are supposed to be, like, their shape is supposed to be reminiscent of bird and parrots.
Parrot beaks, I think, too, yeah.
And, Yeah, you know, this is very quintessential Roger Dean, you know, just the floating rocks and islands type of thing.
Right.
And yeah, just the green and the blue, it all goes well together, and you can like imagine it popping out, and just the dimensionality of it looks amazing.
Dimensionality is a great description of one of the things he's just marvelous at. And here's another one where the colors just pop. I mean, all of these. This is one of the most amazing paintings I've ever seen. It's by Freyja. It's called The White Parrot 2022. And acrylic on canvas, but look at the spectrum of light from one side to the other, just like you would see through a prism. And it's correct, because there's a wrong way and a correct way to paint a rainbow. The colors are in a certain order, the way the natural light, you know, shines through them, creates the prism, and you see the spectrum of light. She's done a great job.
Yeah.
Of course, the snake.
Yeah, the snake reminded me of Relayer here.
Yeah, and we've seen the snake elsewhere appear, so it's an interesting reoccurring character or subject matter.
Yeah, there's also a lion here if you look closely.
Yeah.
Right there by the tree.
And again, zooming in, look at the detail. Even zooming in.
There's
the
a white
moon,
parrot.
Yeah, a white parrot. And look at the moon on the horizon at the top of the waterfall.
Oh, yeah, I didn't notice that before.
Yeah, the silhouettes of the trees, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's, I think, might be my favorite work of hers. Although, yeah, I think it is.
Okay.
Yeah. It has everything. It has the spectrum of light. It has detail in small things like the lion and the moon and the parrot. And then the silhouettes of the trees on the different tree lines and horizons of the ridges just really give it depth and dimension.
Yeah, it's definitely one toward the top for me from her. I still haven't decided what my absolute favorite of hers that we saw is, but and this one, I believe, is called Dragon's Dream. I remember reading that Roger did something like this a couple decades or so ago, and he was able to revisit like this type of dragon.
Yeah, on the cover of one of his books, actually, if I remember right.
Maybe.
Yeah, look at the light, the way it's hitting the rocks, the way it's hitting the trees. This is called a Dragon Dream at Sunrise, I believe, or Dragon at Dawn, and hence the morning light, the orange light.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, so this is Dragon at Dawn. First published in 1984, the book Magnetic Storm. So, yeah, he was able to revisit this for 2008, 2009, somewhere around that era. And I like that he's able to revisit some of these familiar things and sort of do something new with it, you know?
Absolutely, yeah. And the colors are much more vibrant in real life than they are in print.
Yeah.
And of course they're lit up. By the way, they're lit up by just regular LED canister lights. There's no special UV lighting that amplifies anything. It's just white LED light on what is mostly acrylic. Some of these have acrylic and ink. And it's just amazing how they look in person. There's no way to describe it. I mean, you can't really quantify the difference, you know. It's like seeing a picture of John Anderson and then being right in front of him. It's a whole different thing, in a way, you know?
And I can't stress enough like what a great job they did with the placement of the paintings at this exhibit. Like, it makes sense thematically, like going from what we just talked about to this other dragon one, the fire dragon, which was used for XXX. Of course, the
three fish crossing, creating the X's.
The X's. There's a pearl. So this came out 2012, the 30th anniversary of Asia. So, of course, Roger would incorporate a dragon and a pearl, you know, those same motifs, but they're completely different dragon and different settings. So, again, he's using familiar themes, but putting them in a new setting, and it looks more modern. It doesn't feel like a rehash or a nostalgia bait.
And the butterfly aspects of the fins on the dragon are freaking genius, blending, you know, different beings together. Look at that. And again, look at the detail.
You can imagine Benedict Cumberbatch voicing that baby.
Look at the detail, though. The camera lens is literally a couple inches, and, you know, a lot of times, again, you zoom in and you lose that detail. But I think adding the 3 fish as well, crossing over to create the X's, is genius. I just love that.
It's very poignant.
Yeah, I wonder if he had that idea from the beginning or if it was an epiphany towards the end.
Yeah, I think it was John Wetton who came up with the album title. And Steve Howe was not happy with it, and I get why. And this next one, Celestial Songs, this is the one that Roger was painting in the Facebook Lives, and it's for the next Downs Braid Association album.
That is really different and interesting.
Yeah.
The colors of the nebula in the background and the stars glowing and planets, celestial beings, just amazing. And the work he did with the grays, and look at the fire ambers rising all the way up from the crags where the people are, all the way up and cooling off too.
Yeah, I hadn't noticed the people before we saw it at this exhibit. Mm-hmm. So, getting to see that painting up close, any of these paintings, you get to see more of those details.
And the light emitted from those dwellings within those natural structures looks very real. Very dimensional. One of my favorite artists who's great with that is Kincaid, but it's a whole different sort of light. What we just saw here is more of a glowing light, whereas Kincaid does a lot of like flame light, candles, little torches, lanterns, things like that.
Yeah, and on a Roger Dean tribute episode, there were some mentions of Osibisa, and here we have another Osibisa really thing. You got the elephant and with butterfly wings,
and then the elephant grasshopper type of being.
Like who would think of that?
Yeah.
This is titled Osibisa New Dawn, made in 2020.
And some of these plants look like they could be animals, like they could also come to life, like you mentioned on
we
the
were
dark
talking about
crystal
that.
or
Yeah,
something.
The plants in the dark crystal. We were wondering about that. This one is titled Ostara, and it's very Easter inspired.
Eastern.
No, Easter, the holiday.
Yeah,
it's Freyja talks about...
it's funny because I thought it was Eastern when we saw it, like very Asian Eastern. That's what it, so I thought you mispronounced it. Sorry.
Yeah,
continue.
In the book, Freyja, she mentions the whole thing about Easter and the connections with like paganism and Christianity, that whole repurposing thing. On that Ostara painting, we were saying how in the middle it looks like 2 beings are like meeting in the middle. So I don't know if those are 2 separate beings or if they're all one being, but
I think they're all one.
Yeah, like looking at this, they might be all one. Yeah, this one is called Life Juicers. From 2021. These creatures remind me of Brian Froud's artwork. He did the concept art for the Dark Crystal, so there's that reminder of that franchise as well. And I know Roger's a fan of Brian Froud. He recently mentioned him in a story, so I do wonder if maybe some of that trickled into Freyja's influences and whatnot.
One of the things I'm noticing that's consistent with Freyja's work is a very consistent use of 2 things. One, colors that are of often a completely different palette than we're used to seeing in Roger's work, and almost anybody's work for that matter, with I'll call them fluorescent pastels and these vibrant colors that just look different than Roger's vibrant colors. That's number one. The number 2 thing is a constant use of gradients. Gradients as a background, gradients as within one subject, like each of those beings' wings. Very, very consistent in her work. And then, of course, the glitter is showing up more and more, which is really neat. That really does look like it's multimedia. The pink, almost like fur around them, looks like that's fur attached, the way mixed media would be.
Yeah, and I don't know why, but I really love the inclusion of these berries, on the vines and whatnot.
Life juicers.
Yeah. They also make me think of balloons, but of course they are berries. And looking at the vines that they're on and the bodies of these creatures, it almost feels like these creatures are made of the same material, or maybe they're wearing clothing made from the vines, perhaps. So,
it's really hard to tell, but it's very fairy-like as well.
Yeah.
In fact, look at how the top coming out of their heads, and it's also coming out of this flower. So perhaps they blossom in from the flower into these, or maybe they're still attached to the vine.
Yeah,
that's what it looks like now that I realize it, because their arms and legs look just like that.
Yeah,
I didn't realize
there's
that.
definitely a strong connection between these creatures and the environment, I'm sure.
Yeah, they're all one of the same. I see that now. Interesting.
If we are one. That's what that reminds me of.
So here's a little sketch of someone on a horse that's just a small swatch of something. Notice the scales on the horse that I've never noticed before that are snake-like. It'd be great if they put a snake in this painting too. That would kind of make sense, but maybe Roger just wasn't thinking ahead. But it's very Tolkien-like, and you know, I seem to remember he did something else that was kind of Tolkien-related. I don't remember. Whoa, here we go. There we go. Okay, just messing with you folks. And there it is before us in all its majesty, the original relayer, the Gates of Delirium scene from 1973, watercolor ink, acrylic on paper, on board, which is just incredible to see it in person. Look at the colors. It's more colorful than, you know, we think of the album being when you look at the snake and the granite.
Yeah, like the green stands out a bit more up close.
And it, again, up close, look at the detail and the time and patience that must have taken. Look at that, and how symmetrical the underbelly of the snake is, all done by hand. Doesn't look like drafting tools were used there. I could be wrong, but and if you can't tell, then that's the thing. It doesn't matter. And then the key-like crags into the undersides of each of those different spires, if you will. It's just amazing to see in person. This is one of the most two iconic things that were there.
Yeah, and the 1973 date made me wonder, like, how far in advance they knew that this would be the idea for the album.
Or is it possible that was misdated? I can't. There's a signature with a related one, but I can't imagine he wouldn't catch that during the course of setting up for the exhibit.
Yeah, I mean, there is a typo or two in the book, so like you never know.
Yeah, and this is Mammoth Skull Tower, which is of course of the same world of.
Yeah, I think this one has like a 2018 date on it, which surprised me because it looks like it could be from the 70s.
Absolutely. Same color scheme. You know, it's not always easy to replicate your own stuff, especially decades apart. But I love that his signature's baked right into, you know, the painting on the rock there.
This next one from 2016 is the Archipelago, and looking at it, I was wondering whether it was perhaps from the mid-90s, because it reminded me of an Asia album cover from that era, but according to this, it's from just a few years ago.
And again, the detail and the work of light is just amazing.
Yeah, and looking at the picture in the book versus like in person, it looks very different.
Very
different. The lighting is different, and
yeah, in the print it's much darker. Like it's almost a completely different painting. With all due respect, it looks amazing in the book, but it does not do it justice. It doesn't. You don't have the differences in hues and shades the way you do in person with the actual painting illuminated with the exterior light. I don't mean illuminated from within the painting, but the light's shining on it, like we mentioned, the LED canisters. Just what a difference.
Yeah, and in the book it's listed next to the Union album cover titled The Guardians. I never knew that was the title of that cover, but
I always thought it was called The Arches of Onion.
But yeah, like the Archipelago has a lighting technique that's very similar to how he did on Union, and some of those other things that he did in the 80s and early 90s. some on video games even of that era, but I know someone I showed the Union picture to speculated that maybe Roger Dean was influenced by Ralph McQuarrie for those types of paintings where you see the orange lighting, and after that was pointed out, I was like, maybe there is something to this, because I do kind of see that. Yeah. And yeah, the Guardians was not at the exhibit. We looked at everything and it wasn't there, so I do wonder whether there was some sort of change along the way, because in the beginning of this book they do mention some things may have changed by the time this is published, type of thing. So I suspect that maybe they planned on including the Guardians, but then decided to swap it in for something else, which we'll get to in a bit. Mm-hmm. Now you see the owl. This one is titled Blind Owl Landing. It's from 2012.
And look how big this is as we pan out. It's just like the owl's just a small part of...
Yeah, it is just real. Again, we can't stress how great all this stuff looks. And here we have, I think this one is called Myths. It's from the expanded re-release of Rick Wakeman's Myths and Legends of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table.
At first I thought it was a stormtrooper. Just kidding. And look at those.
The knights on horses,
and the brickwork.
bridge.
And the brickwork of the bridge, the under arch of the bridge. I mean, the detail that goes into this, and, you know, the knowledge and understanding of architecture and, you know, everything really has paid off. Truly amazing. The silhouette to the trees, again, the dimension with the mist, and
yeah, it's definitely an improvement over the original album cover, in my opinion, which I think was just a sword.
Yeah, and if you...
And, like, no offense to whoever made that album cover, I'm just more... Like, Roger Dean's stuff is just more my cup of tea, you know?
Yeah, if you zoom in again on the knight, and you could see on the horse's bit and hardware, and on the front of the knight's armor, the metallic, you know, little gold crests on there, and the silver of the horse, the way it just looks so metallic and it's catching the light, all done with paint. It just looks amazing. It really does.
It's only a model. Yeah, I can kind of imagine that that knight with maybe the Black Knight's voice, John Cleese type of thing.
None shall pass.
Yeah. Alright, now this next one is called Arrival in Clouds. It's from 2014, very much a continuation of Yes songs, because this painting was used for the Progeny box set, where it was 7 shows from 1972, and it's getting a vinyl re-release, you know, colored vinyl, so it's interesting to revisit that around this point where it's coming out again.
I love how it's so reminiscent, but at the same time it's in this murky, sort of almost monotone environment where the what we're used to seeing from Roger with colors is absent there, yet as soon as you see it, you know what it is.
Yeah. It's like the shape of it is very classic Roger Dean, but the dimensions of it are very modern Roger Dean. He's ever evolving.
And the light hitting the ridges of every little edge of the floating island, as we see there in the rock.
Yeah, and this next one from Freyja, so this is another person, and it's titled The Animal Bridegroom. Yeah, so what I'm finding with Freyja's work is she gets inspiration from, like, folk tales and stuff like that. And
different cultures and whatnot.
Yeah, this one is inspired by a story about, you know, it's a classic thing of, like, a woman she's engaged to marry someone, and there are, like, some trials involved. Explained very eloquently.
Basically 51 by almost 64 inches. And it was fluorescent paint, I believe, because it was lit by a black light, acrylic on canvas. And what really gets me about that piece is the light on the woman's skin really gives the contour of her body, you know, the shape of her leg muscles and everything is just really done so well.
Yeah, and it feels like the design of it reminds me of the Florian, which we saw earlier in the exhibit with like the light. And there were details about the Florian that has surprised me, like just in terms of the anatomy.
Clouds, adding dimension.
And here we have In the Forests of the Night from 2011.
72 by 48 inches, 6 by 4 feet.
Yeah, and the title is...
Again, look at the detail.
It's the snow on the tree. Yeah, the title is brilliant because people... Yeah, there's that tiger, because William Blake wrote this poem called The Tiger, and there's a line where it's like, tiger, tiger burning bright in the forest of the night.
I want to point out the detail of the snow on the branches underneath. Again, even though we zoom in, the detail is there. But the other thing was, on that close-up, the tiger's eyes. You know, if that's 6 by 4 feet, that tiger's head is only about, I'm going to say, maybe the size of my palm. So the eyes are the size of dimes, or American currency dimes, but yet there was so much dimension. You know, you could see the reflection of the light off of the cornea of the tiger's eyes. It's that detailed, even that close. And again, this is often unusual. Often it only looks detailed and definable when you stand back and look at a big painting. You know, like a mural. You walk right up to a mural and it's just a bunch of swashes of paint, but you stand back 50 feet. Oh, okay, it's a baby's arm holding an apple or whatever, you know.
Yeah, and this was used for Asia's second album of their reunion period, Omega. It's, you know, very much mirroring Alpha, that title in that regard. And Roger talks about how we did a dragon, so naturally the next step would be a tiger. And it's like, I wouldn't, like if it were me, I wouldn't know. I guess I wouldn't get from there to there, but yeah, he has his own thought process, and it's brilliant. Just
and being a very, very big fan of Blue, my largest drum kit
from
is
Blue's
Blue,
Clues,
and from Blue's Clues. The richness of this just doesn't show in video, but compared to the book, it's still much more vibrant.
Yeah, it's still a good book for all the details that it gives, but it's like you kind of need the experience and the details, if that makes sense. Like they go hand in hand, and it's just Yeah,
you've got to see this if you have a chance, wherever it shows up again in whatever country you're in. You've got to go see it. It's so worth it.
Yeah.
We traveled, so on that note, we traveled hundreds of miles. I live 100 miles east of Phoenix, Arizona. I flew an hour and a half to Bakersfield, jumped in a car, picked up Steve, and we drove 5 hours to San Francisco to stay a few days to see this one day. I've never traveled that far to see any of my favorite bands. So what does that tell you about how eager we were to stand in the presence of these amazing works of art by both Roger and Freyja?
Yeah, I know that I saw Rick Wakeman in concert in England, but I didn't travel to England with the intention of, because I didn't there. Yeah, like I didn't find out about that concert in particular until like the day or 2 days before, or something crazy like that. Thankfully, like they weren't sold out, and it was a fun time. So this next one, Door to Idol World.
Now this is a 3-dimensional piece of mixed media with a lot of oak wood paneling and the frame, and this is really interesting because it's functional. Those panels actually close.
Yeah, I mean, we can't touch it, but you just look at how it has hinges, you could be like, okay, it could close.
You can tell that they close, they open wider, and the head, see that head has a hinge where you could see that it lifts up. But let's look at some of the detail.
Yeah, the head reminds me of a lemur. Yeah, you got the butterflies there.
Mm-hmm. And these color schemes are very natural earth tones for the most part, and foliage and whatnot, but still look at all the detail in color transition and everything. So all of that lifts up about another foot higher or so.
Freyja really loves playing with more three-dimensional stuff in some of these things, which is really cool to see.
Look at the water of the pond, and then how it turns into foliage, and then we got a being.
Yeah, they're very much with the environment. There's like some sort of bird. It looks kind of like a pelican, but it might be something else. I don't know. You see like mountain spires on against the sky there.
And watch how it goes all the way around, and the other panel matches exactly. So when they're closed, they link up. But see here, you can see the hinge in there that the head is attached to, that angular piece facing down that would lift up and raise the head.
Yeah, and I really appreciate how at this exhibit they don't have Roger's work in one section and Freyja's work in the other. They blend them like between each other really well.
Yeah, it's all intermingled, which is great.
Yeah. Now this might be my favorite of the ones we saw.
Was mind-blowing, this piece.
Yeah, it's titled The Journey. It's from 2011, and it was for the expanded, remastered Journey to the Center.
And that right there is actually me. And then up here on the ledge, you've got Steven.
Right. Yeah, I wouldn't be caught like climbing anything like that. Spires kind of remind me of the ladder a bit, and I really love the lines. Like it feels very pine cone-esque, and it does a real great job with the shadows.
And again, the dwelling with the glowing light lighting the part of the stairs.
The vertical lines on this coral tower-looking thing.
Look at the detail, the patience this man has. Freyja, I hope he exhibited that type of patience growing up.
Yeah, I mean, for Roger, maybe it's just like a typical Tuesday. I don't know.
Yeah.
And this one, another OCBSO related one, OCBSO Tank Heads.
The Tank Heads.
2015. Yeah, it's just very, very sci-fi. Because the other one feels more fantasy, but this one feels very sci-fi, which is the blending of the organic and cybernetic.
Yeah. Exactly.
And just look at those dogs.
They're both different too, which is cool. They're not the same.
Right.
They're two different animals / weapons. Weaponals.
Yeah.
Ana-weapons.
And going back to what I was saying about the Union art, the Guardians, I suspect that maybe that was swapped out for Journey, because I don't see Journey in this book that we got. So I suspect that maybe that's what ended up happening. Then we got Garden City Blue. I believe this was from another Downs Parade Association album.
Watercolor.
I've definitely seen this. It's got a nice blues. It's not as it doesn't.
It's not as defined.
Right, like it's not as popping out as like it doesn't look as three-dimensional as some of the other more recent.
I feel
ones,
it pops out. It just it's not as defined in the lines and the detail. It's a different lens, if you will. Yeah,
it kind of has a classic Yes feel in the colors as well. You know, the compilation album.
Stairhole is wonderful. Look at this. First, look at it wide out. Again, the spectrum of light going all the way through the different colors of the spectrum. But look at the water hole and how you can see the depths. You know how you look into a pond or a tide pool and you see the colors change and the definition change. I mean, you just literally can fall right into that. And it shows even that close up with the detail. This, I know I keep using this word, but it really is marvelous work of light and dimension. And then you've got the foliage transitioning from almost a moss to a grass to shrubs and trees. And the use of colors, again, is so Freyja.
Yeah, and I remember in the book she mentioned how she could imagine King Arthur looking out to the ocean from here before some sort of battle. So it's kind of interesting how we see King Arthur related, I guess, thoughts and themes in a couple of these different artworks from both of the Deans.
British, so he's their king.
Right, yeah. Monty Python and the Holy Grail is very huge over there. And this one's Small World. Yeah, I guess that song got stuck in your head, right?
Oh boy, yeah. Look at this. It literally is a whole world. You've got
pink mountains, but also
that are
like
more
the
deserty, and then
Yeah.
the bottom you've got the Alps, and then you got this ocean in the middle with the rivers running to it. Look at that.
Yeah, looking at it reminded me of Fragile a bit, but also it's not exactly the same. There's more, you can see more
Look at the
organic,
detail.
like plant life and stuff on it.
But the different, landscapes of different parts of the world. You know, you got desert, you've got like the Alps, and you've got tropical. It's like a whole world right there.
Yeah.
That might be where she got the name from.
Yeah, and this next one, this is another Roger Dean one. You see an owl there, and of course the floating rocks.
And some of these are mounted with glass on them, so you'll see our reflections. Sorry about that. But this is great the way it is mounted on the map with the signed and numbered. I think this is a cliche, and it's signed, numbered, has Roger's embossed official stamp under his signature or next to it, in some cases on the right side. This is number 5 of 200, and it's got the names of these, which is really cool.
Yeah, I think this may have been used for the album by White. I also don't see this one in the book, so perhaps maybe that's another thing that they added in last minute. So maybe the Guardians was swapped out for either this or Journey. Yeah, this next one, I recognized
amazing.
this one right away. I don't know if this is in the book, but I know it's the Yes 50 album cover, the live album, and it's just more breathtaking in person. Like when you look at the album, the CD, it doesn't feel as like you could just go in,
Dive into that water.
Yeah. And over here was a different room. We saw like these Yes Beetle logo series paper.
So Roger Dean is an internationally known, for those who don't know, artist whose paintings and logo designs have become valued collector items. In 1991, the original designs and drawings for the Yes Bubble logo and subsequent designs for the Yes Chop logo were acquired by the Victoria and Albert Museum, London, for their permanent collection.
This series of prints is based on the Yes Bubble logo combined with two beetles, the first inspired by the equatorial African scarab Goliathus kirkianus subcortzi, hopefully I pronounced that correctly, and the second by the Javan fiddle beetle, Marmalus phyllodes. Each is printed in two versions. The designs within the logos themselves are also inspired by natural patterns. This takes me back to like the Yes Speak era, or the 35th anniversary era in general.
Mm-hmm. Then the dragonfly from the
House of Yes.
House of Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes Dragonfly Chop logo series. This series of prints is based on the Chop logo combined with a dragonfly. Vividly colored camouflaged markings inspired by patterns from nature are incorporated into a square chop design based on brushstroke calligraphy. Oh, that logo from In a Word, Yes, that box set. It's just nostalgia right there.
Yeah.
This series of prints is based on the classic Bubble logo as designed for the Yes 2002 and 35th anniversary tours. The red number 1 appeared on the Yes in a Word box set, and blue number 3 appeared on the 35th anniversary album. So there it's referring to the box set titled In a Word Yes, and the compilation album, the Ultimate Yes 35th Anniversary Collection. The music patterns on the logo were inspired by both ancient calligraphy and patterns from nature. We got footage of the poster for the Secret Path.
Here's a signed and numbered cliche of Gates of Delirium from Relayer.
There are these nice, they look very detailed, like possibly a preliminary version of a final result. Mm-hmm. Oh, this feels very Steve Howe beginnings.
Yeah, absolutely. The architecture blending with the natural elements. You can see the walkway there, the pathway.
Yeah.
And then down below as well. and the water. There's those two that are connected by a little bridge.
Roger and his brother Martin have done great bringing some of these elements into real life, and seeing the architecture on Roger Dean's website with houses that have like these geometric, like rounder rooms and stuff.
And I think I remember, I do remember reading in what I think might have been Magnetic Storm, where they showed some of these structures, and the idea is that the rounded spherical rooms were bigger than a room like the one we're in that has corners, so it actually creates more space.
So this says black and white silk screens. I love working in black and white, and I love doing my architectural perspectives, plans, and elevations, as well as just drawing, and I love combining images with text. So these 5 prints are a celebration of these aspects of my work. They are all silkscreen prints on Somerset satin. 410 GSM paper, it's a 100% cotton rag paper made by St. Cuthbert's Mill in Somerset, England. And the ones listed here are the Walkers, Moonbase, Spa Visitor Center, Nullis Secundus, and Virgin 7.
Virgin 7 looks amazing. That's Spa.
Yeah, very detailed.
That's
that is Virgin, yeah. Nice logo. And I don't think I noticed when we were looking at it that it's like there's like a reptile beneath, so that's kind of funny. We got the logo again. And this, whenever I look at something like this, it always reminds me of the Goonies because of the crossbones.
Yeah.
Because that's the first thing you see in the Goonies for whatever. Like, I get that it's a pirate-themed movie, but it just seems like an odd choice just opening that movie with, like, this crossbone skull and zooming out showing the logo type of thing.
Yeah.
But I love that movie.
It's a neat new font that he's got there.
Yeah. And these didn't have labels. These, I guess you would call them shirts or long sleeves, or maybe kind of remind me of kimonos.
The cut looks more West African.
I don't remember if we got an answer of whether those were Freyja's or whether they were already here.
I think they're one of theirs for sure. I think Freyja's.
Yeah, because the patterns do feel reminiscent of some of the stuff we've seen here. And here's another, I guess, a poster of the Quest cover art.
This was the fabric that you can buy.
Yeah, fabric.
Yeah, like they called it a banner, I believe.
Yeah, that's a better word for it, yeah. And look at these little guys. These
3D printed, designed, and done by Freyja.
These are also called idols. So the pink one, like in the book, it's listed under strength. The green one, regeneration. And the purple one, flight. And, well, I guess there's 2 green ones. The green one at the bottom is regeneration, and then the other one at the top, I'm not really sure, but these looked incredible. Just you can imagine people collecting these. Like,
oh yeah,
they can rival some of the best stuff at Comic-Con.
Move over Pokemon.
Yeah, move over Funko Pops.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, like I kind of compare them to the Star Wars Black Series in terms of like just how much detail is put into them. See,
now that's on one of those garments, right? Isn't this the same?
It might be, yeah.
It is, yeah. And see the elephant at the top, folks, and then it turns into almost a squid-like creature.
Yeah, this one is titled Freyja. So it might be named after her namesake. So yeah, I just love the blending of like different animals as one thing.
And it's got like a cape made of itself, you see?
Yeah.
That red outline is part of it.
Yeah, something like for Rick Wakeman. Yeah, it's called Veronica Franco, okay. Yeah, in the book it's titled Freyja. This is like a full bodysuit with, I believe, the Quest painting on it.
Under black light.
Yeah, and this other one looks more Freyja inspired.
Yeah.
Oh, and this next one here.
Clouds. This was amazing.
Yeah, this is one of my favorites of hers. Like the black light just and the glowing effect, it just looks amazing. Like the moon and it looks all green, and you got the pink clouds and the dark blue or dark purplish mountain.
This is very like when I was a little boy growing up in the 60s, and I remember the early 70s, there was so many of those posters that were, you'd go into certain shops and they had these posters that were all fluorescent, lit up with black lights. This takes me right back to that.
Yeah, Freyja talks about how this is inspired by the idea, I think someone she knew, or a kid that she overheard or maybe spoke to growing up, said something about imagining that when we go to sleep, the dreams go somewhere else. And over here we have Ostara again. I kind of feel like having these on different types of material gives it a slightly different feel, you know?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, because print versus the original, brush to canvas.
Okay, in the book, this one is labeled as Veronica Franco. Interesting.
Oh, yeah. It makes sense it's the other way around.
Right. It's also from this year. A lot of Freyja's stuff here is very recent, which is really cool.
Yeah. A lot of earth tones.
Now we have finished showing the footage of the Secret Path exhibit, but since about a week later I saw the Roger Dean art that Trading Boundaries displayed prior to the Yes show that I went to, I figured it'd be nice to include this footage I got into some voiceover for that as well. Now, at this Yes show, I also got the Close to the Edge 50th Anniversary Tour 2022 tour book, put together by the Gottlieb brothers. It's very nice. You got the tour logo with the green and black in the front. Looks very much like a butterfly pattern. Since this came out after Alan White's passing, there's an opening couple pages dedicated to Alan White's memory. It includes quotes from his family, Gigi, Jesse, and Cassie. And you got the words which we'd seen posted online by Steve Howe, Jeff Downs, Billy Sherwood, John Davison, Jay Shellen. And of course there are many quotes that other Yes alumni posted in the aftermath of Alan's passing, which are very easy to find online, and we even read them on our show. But yeah, they interviewed Steve, Alan, Billy, Jay, Jeff, and John Davison. Out of this lineup, Steve was the only one who was there when Close to the Edge was being made. So in this book, you have him talking about some of that process of making of Close to the Edge, what that was like. And of course, Alan joined shortly after, so there's a bit of that recounted. There's even a quote from Rolling Stone about the first time he heard Yes. And you get the younger band members, or, the band members who were not on Close to the Edge or its tour, talking about what they think of the music of Close to the Edge. What was it like listening to it, and how does the music resonate? And it's really cool seeing their perspectives, because we've heard the Close to the Edge lineup talk about the making of Close to the Edge and what they think of it, but I think it's also really nice to hear what Yes members who came in later thought of the album. And yeah, there have been interviews here and there where later members have talked about it, but it's nice to have stuff like that collected in one place here in this book. So there are nice photographs of the band members, and you've got some memorabilia, like pictures of the singles, like for And You and I. There are different covers of that in multiple countries. There's even a nice photo of Alan White with Eddie Offord, which I don't think I had seen before this. And of course the book also includes the original Close to the Edge painting that's in the inside of the cover, and the newer version that Roger Dean did for the 50th anniversary that looks more modern, and dedicating 2 big pages to each of those. It's just the art looks amazing. It recaptures that feel of seeing art like this on the vinyl releases. The bigger the art, the better, we always say here. Oh my gosh, I think this is the first time I'm noticing that on the Close to the Edge 50th anniversary painting, you can see next to one of the islands is a ship, and I'm pretty sure that island and that ship are from the cover of From a Page. I can't believe it took me this long to notice that. But yeah, you got nice essays here. There's even a section about when Close to the Edge debuted at the Crystal Palace Garden Party. You get a recollection from Ken Fuller about that. And here I also see the bit of memorabilia, the poster advertising the Crystal Palace Bowl show, which David Watkinson made an essay about that appeared on yesworld.com sometime last year. We've got the list of tour dates and venues from that original Close to the Edge World Tour, 1972 to 1973. And of course, toward the end of this, there's an interview with Roger Dean. So very on topic here. And it's a really good interview. Roger even includes a story of when he did a signing in San Francisco a while back. Someone asked if he could draw the Yes logo, and he said he could do the square one with the dragonfly, and apparently Roger couldn't remember how to do the classic Yes bubble logo, just hand-drawn. And the guy who asked him to draw was like, "That's ridiculous, I've drawn it 1,000 times on my school books." And Roger was like, "But that's the difference, I only ever drew it once." And that anecdote to me is just really funny, because I've done this, and lots of Yes fans have done this, I'm sure, draw the Yes bubble logo and really commit that to memory, and it just feels like so easy, like second nature, just drawing the outline of it, not necessarily doing all the color and whatever, but that's just very amusing. You even see the 6 original sketches of the bubble logo within this interview section. And this interview also reveals that the initial idea was for the Close to the Edge painting to be on the cover. When Roger met with them, that was the plan. But then the band ended up liking the bubble logo, and they thought it could stand alone very well. A huge compliment when you really think about it. This logo is different from the one on Fragile, and the fact that they were so impressed with the new logo that it could stand on its own. And I mean, that logo has stood the test of time and been on many Yes releases. So it's something I didn't really think about. We see the painting and it's like, oh, why isn't that the cover? But you gotta remember, the logo itself looks incredible, and that was the first time that it was a thing. So naturally, I could understand the thought process of putting it on its own just with the title. Roger does say here that he thinks the painting, the Close to the Edge painting, would have worked very well on the cover though. He mentions here that he presented the painting and the logo as separate elements, so it wasn't like he did the painting with the logo on it, they were separate. He imagines that the logo would have been above the falls in the sky, like how it looks on Tales from Topographic Oceans. But ultimately, Roger says here that it doesn't really matter that they didn't go with the painting on the cover, because it's all history. And I mean, when you really think about it, like, we're just so used to it, so it's like, who cares? It looks good either way. But he does say that if he were to go through that again, he probably would have pushed more for having the Close to the Edge painting on the cover. There's also talk here of the different iterations of the Yes bubble logo, like the chrome one on Drama, and the zigzag one on Heaven and Earth, that one being Steve Howe's idea to do the zigzags. And the stained glass idea for the quest, that also came from Steve Howe, according to this. Roger even mentions that Steve has a stained glass Yes logo made by a lady, but for the quest, Roger wanted the bird to be inside of the logo. There's also a section about the quest, which is really nice that was included, because, as great as the 50th anniversary of Close to the Edge was, it was great that this included a section on their latest album to keep that in the minds of the fans. It's just a few pages, not as extensive as the Blu-ray art book for the quest, but still really nice that they did that. Talking about the songs a little bit here, getting the album made. Got a picture of all 6 members involved in that album. And then, of course, each of those musicians get a collage of photos of themselves. And there's also an ad of Roger Dean and Trading Boundaries, with a few photos from the exhibits included. So if you ever get the chance to see Trading Boundaries present Roger Dean's art, you've got to do it. Just cannot say enough how seeing these artworks in person is a whole different experience from seeing it on the page or on the screen. And of course, at the end of this book, the Yes touring crew, each of them even have their photos included, and credits to the Yes team, the tour dates for the Close to the Edge 50th anniversary tour, and at the very end is the Yes discography. So one page is the studio discography, going from the first album to the Quest. What stood out to me was how the covers for the first two albums, Yes and Time and a Word, are the US release covers. So the Time and a Word one has Steve Howe on it. I believe I remember seeing somewhere that for the UK version of this tour book, it includes the UK cover art for those first two albums, which, you know, the US cover art for Time and a Word was always a mistake, having Steve Howe on there even though he didn't perform on the album. But apart from that, the studio discography is pretty complete here. Includes all the studio releases from the different eras. It includes Key Studio in between The Ladder and Magnification, because that's when that was released. Even includes both versions of Fly From Here, sort of sandwiching Heaven and Earth, followed by From a Page and The Quest. And then on the next page says a select official live and compilation discography. So this includes Yes songs, Yesterdays, Yes shows, Classic Yes, 9012 Live, the solos, Yes years, even Yes Story, the abbreviated version of that, highlights the very best of Yes. That one was sort of my gateway into some of the studio stuff, like right before I got the Rhino remastered stuff. And then you get both Keys to Ascension albums, Something's Coming, the BBC recordings, House of Yes, live from the House of Blues, In a Word Yes, and then Symphonic Live, the Ultimate Yes 35th Anniversary Collection, The Word is Live, and Live at Montreux. Then you got Union Live, In the Present, live from Leon. They got the two Like It Is live albums, and Topographic Drama, Yes 50 Live, and the most recent one, The Royal Affair, live from Las Vegas. And on the back, you get the original Close to the Edge painting again, with the butterfly above it and the Close to the Edge 50th Anniversary Tour Yes logo under it. So overall, the Gottlieb brothers once again did a great job. I'm really glad I got this tour book. It's a must-have, I would say. Today only, the art of Roger Dean. So here we have Pathways once again, that classic Yes Songs artwork. Just look at the path and the swirl, it's just, I never get tired of looking at it. So it was very cool seeing it again here at this venue. And then here we have the classic Yes bubble logo. This one's dated from 1997. So that would have been the Open Your Eyes period. You know, just simple bubble logo against a black background. And down here, once again, the painting that was used for the White album cover art. Not the one by the Beatles, mind you, but the one by Alan White's band White, simply titled White. Hopefully that clears things up. Seeing it again, I was admiring the floating rocks once more, you know, with the snow. I feel like up to this point, we're so used to seeing the floating rocks without snow, so this was really neat when this came out, I'm sure, back in the mid-2000s. And look at this one here. You got, like, the architecture with all the greenery. It kind of reminds me of Hobbiton a bit, but think with Hobbiton, we're used to hills here. The grass makes me think of a more mossy aesthetic. So apparently this is from Halcyon Hymns, which is the 4th Downs Braid Association album. So something from the last couple years. Really cool to see here. But yeah, like I said, with the possible Tolkien influences, and yet it still looks like its own distinct setting. Like I look at it and yeah, the hills do remind me of, Hobbiton or the Shire or what have you, but it also looks like its own little world. Nice little lily pads in the pond there. It's just, I love it. Like it's all one color, but with the different shades of green, you can see all the depth, and I just want to go to a place like this. Oh, this is the one that was used for Fly From Here. Always great to see these things again. This is just a week after the trip. Yeah, I was missing being at the exhibit, so seeing all the stuff that Trading Boundaries had on display here, it felt like going back, even though it's a different building. Like it just felt like being back in that world, even though the way that certain things were displayed was somewhat different. Gotta love the waterfall and whatnot. Oh, look at this. Flights of Icarus. Supposedly what may have been Roger Dean's idea for going for the one before they went with something else. Roger has told the story about how he flew out to meet the band but only ended up talking to John, and John wanted something else. I feel like this painting would work very well if you imagine it against a song like Awaken. It just has that vibe to me, like all the nature and the sky and whatnot. And look at this, Close to the Edge 2. A very nice way to commemorate the 50th anniversary of that monumental album. It looks like an updated version of what we're so used to with what's on the inside of the original album. It has those modern Roger Dean-isms, if you will, where you've seen how much he's shifted, Yesshift, the way that he approaches his works these days, and I just love it. It's that same world, but with some added dimensionality, if you will. You got green trees and blue trees. Oh, the arches in the morning, the keys to ascension art. Look at that mossy bit there. Yeah, these arches look so good. Look at this, just brings the live music from the San Luis Obispo shows in '96 to mind. That's the power of art right there. Like, you just look at this and think Siberian Khatru and America and all those tracks as they were performed there. This is more than a quarter of a century old, so it's safe to say you can call this classic now, which is kind of scary to think about. Yeah, Arches 1, Morning. Arches 2, Mist. Really neat seeing how a setting like this can appear. It can be very different depending on the weather conditions. Here I was able to get a little glimpse of a bit of the Yes Songs art. It's so odd seeing it without color here. I'm just so used to the colors popping out, but here it's got less dimension, but it's no less impressive seeing the way all of this is drawn out here. It's like going backwards and seeing how the evolution of this stuff might look like. We got another bit of some Yes Songs art there. Widescreen view, you might say. Oh, the Asia dragon once again. Always triumphant, this thing, whenever it pops up. Just chasing after that pearl in the water. It's very iconic. It never gets old. In fact, it doesn't even look old. It looks... Looking at the cover on anything, it just doesn't look old. And here we have the Guardians, previously mentioned art for Union, one of the most divisive Yes albums, I suppose one might say. It got a lot of flack because of all the session musician stuff, all the edits, but over time it's gotten its fair share of positive praise here and there. Yeah, none of that affects the artwork itself. It brings me back to that time. Like, the Union era of Yes is my era in a way. I get nostalgic thinking about like those clips of the Union tour, which I'd see on the Yes Years video, and this was such a moment in time. I'd love to be a fly on the wall during the making of Union. It would be so complex and just, it would be a wild ride. Now, prior to recording this, I wasn't really aware of the thing that this aircraft painting was used for, or this painting itself for that matter. And this painting, Premonitions, used for the Premonitions box set that contained Steve Hackett's works from 1975 to 1983. The coloring is very similar to Dragon at Dawn, which we saw at the Secret Path exhibit. You can imagine this just flying by that dragon. The texture also reminds me of some 1980s video game work that Roger Dean did, particularly for Chrono Quest, just the aesthetic of this aircraft. And I would not be this person standing on the front of this thing up in the sky, like just those heights. Like, yeah, I would not do that. And then over here we got the aircrafts, the one we're very familiar with from Fragile and so forth. And there they were inside the morgue, to move into chant all through force to position. Oh wait, wrong album, wrong glider. Yeah, it's a Space Arc here. That's Space Arc box set. A box set featuring 4 prints, complete with a single cover sheet of the Fragile Space Arc drawings and color studies. Here we got Myths once again with the night. Nice waterfall and greenery. And we have the paintings that were used for the Progeny box set, 7 shows from 72. A nice update of the Yes Songs themes. We got Return to the Center of the Earth once again, so I guess this is Return to the Center of the Earth. And look, Return to Journey to the Center of the Earth. God, I love this one. Yeah, it's just, what else can I say about it, you know? And here we have the artwork for the quest once again. And it's very fitting that it's next to the Gates of Delirium relayer artwork. Kind of similar fantasy medieval quest theme here. The way they've placed these next to each other feels very purposeful. I like it. Oh, and the Tales from Topographic Oceans artwork here. It's so odd seeing it without color. You know, that album, when I think of the music, it's just full of color, so really neat experience here. Creativity is great. We got the Yes Songs art again, and some, yeah, pathways. Then we got some more posters featuring Roger's artwork. There's the owl once again. And Tails artwork in color as I'm used to. Yes Songs. And here, one live badger, actually recorded about the same time as the Yes Songs film. And this is one where, I've said this elsewhere probably, but this is one where I look at it, and if I didn't know the context, I might not know right away that Roger Dean did this one. But perhaps maybe by looking at stuff he did around that era, one might possibly think so. It's just a little different, but of course he's worked with snowy settings from time to time. Yes Songs without color again. Yestival 2013, Close to the Edge 2014, Gallery Close to the Edge Exhibition 2022, and here we got the Asia Eyes logo series. So here it says, Roger Dean's logo designs have become sought-after collector's items that are now found in public and private collections throughout the world. For the Asia logo, Dean was requested to create a form that was intrinsically different from the soft, swirling shapes of the well-known Yes logos. The hard-edged pyramid shape is contrasted with decorative patterns found in nature. The eyes did not appear until the second Asia album, Alpha, and were based on an idea contained in photos of Nepalese stupas photographed by Martin Dean. Readers of Rolling Stone magazine voted the Asia album cover as one of the most popular designs of all time. Dawn of the light lying between the silence and sold sources. Reflection there that makes it seem like there's 2 suns. And this looks like a blue version of the art that Roger did for the bird songs of the Mesozoic album, The Iridium Controversy. Actually, you know what this is? This is art used for Yes, the Royal Affair Tour, the live album that came out in 2020, documenting the Las Vegas show from 2019. The date would certainly support that. And yeah, that's that rock formation that's on there. Very neat blue. Here, Awaken, not to be confused with the Yes song, the art from Yes songs. Oh, and look at this, Pathways at Night. This was used for the Progeny box set. It feels very reminiscent of the original Pathways, but also feels very modern if you take a really close look at it. Just love the blue and the purple there. Here we got Shadowlands, used for symphonic music of Yes, the 1993 album of orchestral reinterpretations of Yes music. I know that album didn't exactly become very popular, but the artwork really speaks for itself. Here we got the Yes Beatles series once again. Another trip down 35th anniversary era. Just look at all of these, feels like a blast from the past. It was a nice little trip through memory lane before seeing the show and going through another trip down memory lane. In the Forest of the Night once again. And here we have the Bridge Shrine. The setting reminds me of the In a Word Yes box set. So here this is dated as 2018. I had to look up this information on Roger Dean's website. So it says, Freyja and I worked with the Puccini Festival in Torre del Lago on Puccini's first full-length opera, Edgar, which was produced to celebrate the 150th anniversary of his birth. Freyja designed the costumes and I designed the sets. This painting was to set the mood for the work we did and to become both the poster and the DVD cover. So that's neat. Roger and Freyja team effort there. And there's also this text here which is a bit hard to read if you're just looking at it here, but I'll give it a shot and read it. So there's this quote from George Lucas, the creator of Star Wars, who said, "The artwork of Roger Dean has always amazed me. It spans the spectrum from mind-blowing to mind-mellowing." Yeah, I was really surprised when I saw this quote from George Lucas, because, I'm so immersed in the Star Wars world that I'm surprised I didn't come across this a long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, haha. But like I've said before, someone I know mentioned that some of Roger's stuff looks Ralph McQuarrie influenced, and Ralph McQuarrie, of course, did a lot of concept art for the original Star Wars trilogy. So I find this quote very fascinating, that George Lucas is very aware of Roger's work. And there's this quote from Sid Mead, known for his designs for sci-fi films. Just looking at a list here on the internet. Blade Runner, Aliens, Tron, so you got classics right there. Blade Runner 2049 even. Star Trek The Motion Picture 2010, that's a sequel to 2001. Time Cop, that was an odd film. Johnny Mnemonic, that was another odd one. Mission Impossible 3, Tomorrowland. And apparently, according to what I'm looking at, George Lucas created the AT-ATs for Star Wars based on art by Mead. So in this quote, Sid Mead says, "Roger Dean continues to amaze, to furnish the creative world with his fantastic forms, his exquisite grasp of color, composition, and the aptness of his creative inspiration. All those attributes that describe the classic parameters of genuine talent." And this sign continues to say, "Working in many fields from painting and architecture to typeface, furniture, and stage design, UK artist Roger Dean is perhaps best known for his album covers for groups such as Yes, Asia, and Osabisa. The originals of both his Yes logos, 11 of his album covers and record labels, as well as the prototype of his sea urchin chair, first exhibited in London's Design Centre, can be found in the permanent collection of London's Victoria and Albert Museum. More than 100 million copies of Roger's images have been sold around the world as album covers, posters, cards, calendars, and books. His work has been exhibited in many galleries and museums, including the V&A, the Royal Academy, and the Royal College of Art. In 2010, the Daeling Contemporary Art Museum in Seoul, Korea, held a major retrospective of his work. Roger studied at Canterbury College of Art and then between 1965 and 1968 at the Royal College of Art, where he received a first for his master's degree and silver medal for work of special distinction. He has since been awarded an honorary doctorate by the San Francisco Academy of Art University and an honorary fellowship by the Arts Institute of Bournemouth. With his brother Martin, Roger has formed 2 publishing companies and also developed architectural projects which have been exhibited at the National Exhibition Centre, Birmingham. Since 2007, he has worked with his daughter Freyja on projects such as the sets and costumes for the 150th anniversary of the Puccini Festival. Not only being referenced in countless films, his work has inspired generations of students who have gone on to become professional designers and artists, as well as demonstrating the importance of never going anywhere without a sketchbook and pencil. Roger's work is chronicled in 3 volumes: Views, 1975, Magnetic Storm, 1984, and Dragon's Dream, 2008. And here's a quote from Richard Branson. "It's difficult to imagine the impact of Roger's work and of his book Views during the 1970s and onwards. We are all now used to seeing color and the surreal as part of an accepted and understood part of today's visual language, but this was not always the case." And then here's a quote from someone you all may have heard of named Rick Wakeman. He says, "Very few artists of the last 40 years have made the kind of impact that Roger Dean has, and he has already created a legacy for himself and also for the world of art as a whole." When editing this documentary, there was a question to grapple with. How do we end it? Personally, as a fiction writer, I don't see much trouble in crafting an ending, but this is real life. My dad and I had a real-world experience observing worlds that are beyond real. There's an old saying attributed to Leonardo da Vinci: "Art is never finished, only abandoned." So I very well could just end this documentary any which way, and it could potentially never feel finished to me, because later on I might think, oh, I could have done this or done that. I think there is some truth to the saying by Da Vinci. Artists can make their work, and even when they release a version of it, they might think it's not quite finished and that they could have done more. Some even go back to their work and add more. Your mileage may vary on that approach, as it could be a case-by-case basis, but I'm not so quick to say that Da Vinci quote is always true. For what it's worth, to my eyes, the released works of Freyja Dean and Roger Dean look finished, and even if there is some notion of, well, it could have included this or that, the art, if powerful enough, is never abandoned. People from all over travel to see Roger and Freyja's work. It will continue to be talked about because of how the art can move people. So in that sense, one could say the art is never finished, as it continues to be viewed and engaged with by people, and therefore has kind of an infinite life. Art really is a secret path between people, bringing them together and helping them bond over windows into other worlds.